here. And I'm sure you'll all appreciate it. Rock and Surf Clinic is not a simple thing. It should be a 6 to 8 hour session. We could break this up. We've done some in Durban that are quite sort of formalized, and when you go through reading of water, bait presentation, casting techniques, and so on and so on, it takes a long time. And unfortunately, we start seeing members of the audience getting a few bites while you're talking about getting bites. Sometimes get called flat. So I'm going to try and keep it fairly short tonight. I'm sort of looking at an hour, maybe an hour and a bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about what works for me, and you can take from that whatever you want to. I would also appreciate comments. This is how we learn. Somebody comes up with a better idea, that's fantastic. But also, if you've got a question that you'd like to ask, please ask. What I will do, I have strict instruction from my boss that I have to repeat the question just for the benefit of the whole self-instruction. I mean, thing. But yeah, so if anybody asks a question, I'll just make sure that we all understand it, that I've got it right, and I'll try and answer it as best I can. Before I go any further, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover different things like rods, reels. I'm going to move on to terminal tackle, and I'm going to move on to like little things that work well for me, and I just find that they make my fishing that much more efficient and a little bit faster and more productive. I'll talk about hooks, I'll talk about bait clips, all that kind of thing. There is a competitive slant to this, and those guys that are non-competitive, that are here just to hear about rock and surf fishing and what to do, you're more than welcome to ask whatever question you want to ask, and I'll answer as best I can. I do a bit of that as well. In fact, I love it. Okay, so just before I go any further, is there anything in particular that anybody would like to know a little bit more about? Perhaps that you could talk about? No? Okay, fantastic. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start with probably the most expensive component. It doesn't always have to be, but I'd sort of start, I want to tell you what I've learned and what I feel and know about reels. And there's absolutely no doubt, the more you fish, the more mileage you're going to do, the more money you should spend on a reel. If you're fishing occasionally, there's no need to go and pay out a whole lot of money, unless it's just lack of driving seas. You know what I mean? Then it's fine. But there's no doubt that the more expensive reels last longer. The brands are all good. There's, whether it's Daiwa or Shimano, or Daiwa and Shimano are undoubtedly right at the top. And these days, most of us are fishing with coffee grinders, hula hoop reels, egg beaters, whatever you want to call them. The correct name is a fixed pull reel, but this is what we're fishing with. And it wasn't too many years ago we were all fishing with multipliers. And multipliers, unfortunately, are now a thing of the past. They're like Scarboroughs. They're just nowhere near as efficient. There's a lot of downtime with overwinds. They don't throw as far. They don't pull fish as hard and as quick. And coffee grinders have just taken over. And that's not just me, it's everybody that's using them, which is most people. So in the beginning, the coffee grinders were pretty sort of basic. They were just coffee grinders. They were for fishing. Then fishing got a bit more complicated. And I remember spinning, and braid is the thing that changed everything. Braid changed the game completely. So when braid came out, suddenly I saw the benefits, and we started throwing small spoons along the way. There were no dedicated spinning reels, so we were taking Ultegra type reels. This is an old bullseye, which is like gold to me. I've got about 5 of them. I keep them because to me it's still one of the best reels that we ever made for the lighter stuff. But this is pretty much an Ultegra type reel. I'm talking Shimano because you can relate that to whether it's Penn, which is a brand I didn't mention a bit earlier, because it's not perceived to be right up there at the top. But I will tell you something, they're moving in that direction. There's been a few changes in that company. There's some major sort of shake-ups. But Penn have got a good value product at a good price. and they've been pretty good on their support as well with things like spares. We battle a bit, sometimes with Daiwa, sometimes with Shimano. But anyway, back to the spinning. So we were spinning, we sort of had a fair idea of what we needed. We needed a wider diameter spool, because the wider your spool is, the freer the line comes off. Carp guys were sort of saying that the longer the spool is, the further you cast. But there's oscillation problems with that. So the longer the spool, the more it has to go right to the top. And when it gets up there, and you've got a lot of pressure on the reel and the drag, this gets pulled like that, and you end up bending shafts. So that's one of the problems with long spools. I generally try and avoid long spools. I prefer shorter spools, and I also prefer a wider, a bigger top, and I'll show you a bit more about that now. But those early spinning reels, they weren't spinning reels, they were actually bait fishing reels that we used for spinning, and they sort of worked. But things progressed, and the development came with the products that were in the biggest demand, and that was jigging and popping. Jigging and popping also changed everything, because now with braids, suddenly you could take reels like this, let it jig down to the bottom, jig it up, throw a popper, pop it, and you had enormous drags. And that's when the Stellas first started, and Daiwa started going into their top ends. Now, there's so many different applications, and there's a reel for almost every application. So if you're just spinning, then you look for a certain reel. A lot of these will come. I often talk about gearboxes. This is a Stella 20,000. This is a Stella 30,000. Check the gearbox. There's hardly any difference. It's exactly the same. But and then when you look at something like this, which is a bullseye, the gearbox is a lot smaller. So with profit grinders, what happens is they'll make an 8, a 10, maybe a 12, or maybe even a 14, same gearbox. And it used to have the same gears, but then things needed to change, because sometimes you needed a fast retrieve, sometimes a slower retrieve. Some reels require a much slower oscillation. When I talk about fine lines, I'm talking about thin line, which is what they fish with in Europe, and the guys that come tomorrow might hear more about that. But you can see how slowly this reel oscillates. In other words, it goes up and down per crank, as opposed to this reel, for example. This one goes up and down a lot faster, because this was designed for heavy line. This one's designed for thinner line, so it lays that thinner line in a certain pattern on the way up and a certain pattern on the way down, so that when you throw, it comes off easily. So when you're looking at reels, you must look at your application, and generally for rock and surf reels, you actually want a reel that's not very fast. For spinning, if I'm spinning for snook, I want a reel that's really fast. And I just want to go like this, and that spoon must be moving at a big speed. But once I hook a fish, I want to actually be able to just line without having to do this. Because as soon as I pull and do that, I let a little bit of slack, it's braid, there's no stretch, the snook does this, and the hook's out. Exactly the same with the cob and the short braid. As soon as he does this, if there's any slack, it's out. So I'd rather be just winding than actually having to pump, which we used to do with the multipliers. And we did with these reels that have got a fast retrieve. So if you throw a hell of a long way, with a Stella 18, for example, same gearbox, different gearing. The Stella 18 is designed for popping, it's a faster reel. This, the 20, is designed for jigging. So it's got a slower retrieve, which gives you a lot more torque. It's like being in low gear, not quite low range, but low gear. So with this, I can actually, my bait's out there a long way, pull it off the bottom, and I can start winding, and I can just wind without having to pump. Whereas a reel like this, that's a little bit faster, I've actually got to pump this one a bit. The Stella 30 was one of my favourite reels. It's unfortunately also a popping reel. This was designed for popping for bluefin tuna. Those 1,000 pound, 500-600 kilo fish. That's what it's designed for. 120, 150 pound braid. So it is a tad fast. I would love this just a little bit slow, because then I'd have a bit more cranking power, but it's fine. I'll cope with it. This is just to show you the difference in the schools. There's the Bullseye School, designed for casting a long way. It was a domestic Japanese reel made for the domestic market in Japan for surf fishing. So it was made to throw a long way off the beach. It wasn't made to fight 100 kilo honeycombs. It was made to catch bass, sea bass and that kind of thing. So you see the size of that school, you see the size of this school, which is the 20,000. There's a 50,000 school. I mean, it's chalk and cheese. So the ultimate reel for me is this. Slightly slow gearbox. I'd fish this with 50 pound, 60 pound, 80 pound, 100 pound. Because this reel throws like you cannot believe. I get confused as to whether I've got 80 pound or 100 pound on, because you throw and you say, yeah, it's quite a good cost. And you look, shit, I'm using 100 pound. Yeah. So I've got an 80 and a 100 pound spool. At one stage I had 50 pound on the one spool, but it threw extremely well. But what I found was that I was having to, that's another thing that's quite important. I've got two standards, 20,000s that I use. The one is for my sort of 40, 50, maybe 60 pound spools, and the other one's for my 50, 60, 80 pound spools, because they have to be set up differently. We all know about that. Inside here there's shims, and that adjusts the actual spool, lifts it up or lifts it down. So you can't shim this reel or adjust this reel for 40 pound and then don't put your 80 pound spool. You might get away with a few shorter casts. The one, that's like when you open sand, it takes 100 meters. You wind back, one reel. It's suddenly not coning properly. Or it takes more than 100, and when you wind back and you throw again, you get a wind knot, which I don't think I've had for 2 or 3 years, 4 years. Remember wind knots? They've gone. They've gone because of technology, because we know, technically we know what we're dealing with. And for me, it's just, I wish I'd been born 10 years ago, because, geez, it's so nice to fish with reels where the line lasts forever, the reel lasts almost forever, and everything is efficient. You never get overrun. Just everything works. Whereas before we were getting a terrible run, it's just a wind knot and a back knot, and it's the guards and it's the rod and it's this and it's that. The wind knot has got nothing to do with the rod, it's got nothing to do with the guard, it's got everything to do with the reel. And if you do get wind knots, it's your reel. If you get a wrap, that's the rod. A wrap's a different thing. Just while we're on that, I'll just tell you about that. So what happens with a wrap is when the line's coming off the reel, it's doing this because it comes off that spool, and especially if it's a heavy leader, it's wet, and as soon as the braid gets wet, it's heavy. So when it's heavy, because it comes off, it actually gets thrown out. Like monofilament wants to jump off. So if you do fish with monofilament on a grinder, it must be super soft. It must be the softest mono you can find. So when I throw and the coils come off here, they're going to go like this. If your leader is too long, and the difference between your leader and your main line is too great, there's a very good chance, because if your leader is long, your leader comes off and it gets bigger and bigger, and the circle gets bigger, and the next minute it comes and it actually overshoots here, and it goes around, and that's when you get that whata, and it either pulls this guy right out, or it breaks here. So that's, again, it's the reel, or it's the individual, because your leader is too long. And the bigger the difference between your leader and your main line, the more it affects, the greater effect it has on it. The wrap that I was talking about is when you throw, you obviously get these coils coming off, but they straighten out pretty quickly. But it goes along nicely, and it goes along nicely. And this is where you generally start to get your wraps. You'll get maybe a tip wrap, but it's normally about here. And it took a lot of work before we found out exactly what it was, and it was something that we call recoil. So what happens is, when you go, you push it out there, and you throw with this thing. You get to here, and you stop. And I actually learned it from my son, because he was basically crapping all over me. This rod is just this, and I said, well, how come it happens to you and it doesn't happen to me? Don't blame me, it's not me. It doesn't happen to me. What's your problem? So we actually went and his girlfriend was like taking him, we were very technical, and they filmed this thing very slowly, and we watched the whole thing. And what happens is, when he was throwing, he was actually getting to, he would throw and he'd get here, and that's where he stopped. Whereas when I threw, I'd get to here, but I would kind of follow through. So in those days, the rods were a little bit different. This is the updated version. But what would happen is you throw, so this rod is bent, and it does this, and it gets to there, and you let go, and he stops there. And the rod does that, and then it bends like this. And then it comes back up, and it goes back down, and it goes back up. You don't see it, but it's fast. And when you watch it, then you'll see what really happens. So these newer Horizons have all been designed to have less recoil. That's what we call recoil. But we solved this problem, because as soon as immediately we saw what it was, and we saw why I wasn't having a problem, we said to him, just follow through. Don't stop there. Just get to there and just go through a little bit. So you take away a lot of that recoil at the end. You'll see on some of the stiffer spinning rods, you get exactly the same effect. You get that recoil will give you a. So what happens now is the rod goes down, the braid's wet. The rod goes down, and the braid stays behind it. You know, so it's coming off the reel, but it goes up and it creates a bow here. Right, so now there's that bow, because it's gone this way. Now it comes back down the other way. And what you'll find is that normally, with some people it will be a northeasterly. Some people it will be and for me it was in one shore that used to kill me. And sometimes it will be a westerly. and then when the braid comes back down, it actually goes past the rod and it goes down to here. Comes back up, it's up around the guy. So you'll get those like, often you'll throw, if it's just one, you get that like, you think, what happened? That's from recoil. So again, don't blame the reel. And you can blame the rod a little bit, but it's the operator. It's almost always the operator. The other thing is, you'll see that on these rods, this first guide is quite low down. If I'd had my way, it would have been even lower, especially on the heavier ones, but it starts to start looking a little bit funny. But I mean, you know, it's whether it's like a while. At the end of the day, it's whether they do their job properly. That's what you're worried about. Right. So, if you could move this guy lower down, you'd be able to throw thicker leaders that were a bit longer, because as it comes off the reel, the thick leader wants to start growing into these big coils quickly. So you've got to catch it before it goes further up. If you took this guide out and you had it here, those coils, by the time they got here, are going to be that much bigger, and you're going to get wraps every time. So you're going to have hassles with them. So you'll see a lot of guys, I mean, I've seen guys that actually fish quite successfully sometimes with those very small low riders, and they hire. Those are, you find them on European rods, it's made for fine lines. And it will work on a rod like this if you don't have a heavy leader, and if you don't fish with particularly heavy braid. The heavier the braid, the bigger the guide you want, and the closer you want this one to the actual reel. So that was just sort of matter of interest on a rod. I was just wrapping up with reels. So yeah, at the end of the day, check the gearbox speed, depending on the size of the reel. Like this has got it's quite slow, this reel. It's about, I think it's about 5 point something, but because it's got such a big spool, it still pulls a lot of line with one revolution. I kind of counter that because to be honest with you, I've got a bit older and I find a lot of fish just straight sticking out. but when you do have to, this one I've got to pump it a little. But the benefits of the big spool and the long cast just exceed everything else on this reel. And I think what you're going to see in future is you're going to see there's no reel other than these soft surf reels. There's no heavy surf reels that have been designed specifically for rock and surf. This reel, the slower gearbox, would be the ultimate. And the other thing that's happened is with braid, you know, when it first sort of came out and started using it, it was great. We said, shit, this stuff is amazing. We use 50 pounds for anything. I mean, you don't catch small fish with a big fish, whatever. Those days have come and gone as well. Because now, most guys will have 2, 3, or 4 spools, especially the competitive guys, because when you're tying fancy knots onto leaders, you can't afford to waste time and sit there, especially if you're over 40s and you need to find these things, they must pick up, oh, nightmare. Rather just take the spool, you can feel, put it on, off you go. But also because we fish now, rock and surf, a seriously competitive rock and surf angler will have a reel that's got like 20, 30 and 40, and you're probably going to use the 30 the most, so you'll have 2 spools of it because you can't afford to have downtime. And then you'll have something like a 20,000 and you'll have at least 2 50s because that's probably the most common one, and then you'll probably have a 60 and an 80. And depending on where you're fishing, maybe even 100. Because these days we can hold fish that much easier, we get them out that much quicker. Because braid is just amazing. It doesn't allow the fish to turn its head. There's absolutely no stretch. So when that big black bailey or that honeycomb actually starts doing one of these numbers to turn around and put the afterburners and go that way, he actually can't turn because we're stretching the line, he can turn around and sort of get going. So it's made a huge difference. At the end of the day with reels, I would recommend that if you're going to spend a lot of money anywhere, you spend it here, because that's what's going to last. And if you look after them, they're going to last a long time. Just always check this thing, your roller, because if that goes, your braid goes, and you've got a problem. So make sure that this, every time you come back, give it a quick spray, just make sure you look after it. The rest of the reel should be pretty much just a wash and dry. I don't know if I've missed anything on reels. Anybody got any questions?
I've got a question, Barry. You were talking about the shims on the reels. I've got a Goza 20 and I use 50 pounds. Should that have been set up before I got it, or do I have to set that up with the shims?
Well, it depends where you bought it. And a lot of guys don't know about the shims, and a lot of tackle stores don't even have winding machines and whatever. So generally, in our stores, if we're going to wind it on, we'll actually set it. We'll set the shims. But if a guy comes in and says, just wind, I want you to wind this on, we can sometimes do it on the machine without the reel. So we'll wind it on and we'll perfectly round on. But now when you put it on the reel,
Different story.
it could be a different story because the fish takes a lot of line. So that does happen in tackle stores. You must just be aware of it. If you go in and say, please just fill up my spool. If they don't use the reel, and they just put the spool on the machine, which you can do, you can fill it up and it's perfect. But a fish that takes 200 meters and wind it back, and suddenly it's just for the benefit of the guys that don't know, when I talk about how it packs, you can see that's pretty. It's like this. It's packed straight. It's parallel. What you don't want is that it's coning like that, or it's coning like that, because as soon as you've got that, you start picking up problems. As the line is coming off, it pulls other pieces, off with it. So you just got to be very careful about it. While I'm on the reels, I've pretty much finished the reels. Sorry, I hope you got that question. Guys, before I put the reels away, I just want to show you something that's kind of changed my life quite a bit. And I learned this from fishing European style flips. Every single one of my schools, I've got a leader on here. And for rock and surf, what I do is every single school, I've got 7 meters of braid leader because I can throw a 2 meter drop. So the drop is from the top of your reel to your sinker. And like if you have a look at this trace here, I haven't put a sinker on it yet, but this will be a 2 meter drop. So once I've clipped the hook in, from my sinker to here is 2 meters. And that's the length I can throw comfortably. So all my traces are 2 meters. Whether it's a cob trace with nylon on it and a little bite or whatever it is, my traces are generally about 2 meters. And this clip that goes on here stays on here. So this leader stays on this spool until something bites it off or whatever. And it's so quick to just clip on a full metal jacket or clip on a nylon trace, unclip it, clip something else on. And that comes from flip style fishing, but the clip swirls that I grew up with, nobody ever trusted, including me. So I was very, I like to time knots on everything. But these days, the equipment is that much better. So it's a lot easier to have one of these clips on. You can have a look at it later if you want to. And every single spool, even, here's a 100-pound spool that I use for bigger fish and for swim baits, so that's a 220-pound leader clip. Just clip the trace on and clip it off. So there's no tying knots and all that kind of stuff. Sorry, I've got a couple of questions here. There was number one.
What pound can you put on the, what pound is the braidage on that clip?
I haven't measured this, but, sorry, the question was what is the breaking strain on the clip? I've asked the guy that makes these for us to actually start giving us some specs on it. One thing I can guarantee you will never open it, but a big fish can. I think it maybe could. So if you get a raggy and he wraps the whole trace around and then he does this, that could well be your weakest link. But I'm so confident with it because I've had one of the worst fish is a gully shark. Very good, I will tell you. Anybody that's fished for gullies will tell you, gully shark is unbelievably strong. And they bend like a flippin' acrobat and they wrap your trace around and next minute, bang, something breaks. 120 pound wire broken. So I've used these clips for those things and I haven't had a problem at all. They are really, really strong. Happy with that? Another question then.
Yes, how easy do they go through the guards?
Okay, how easy do they go through the guards? Not easy. They're not meant to go through the guards except when you thread it through and when you wind it back. And when I wind it back, I'm a bit lazy. I should actually carefully just push it through the guards, but I wind and you burn it, goes katam, katam, and then it goes katam, and it wraps, and you shake it a bit, katam, 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 katam. And here it's on the reel, and you put your thing on, done. So yeah, that's a little bit of a negative, but I promise you the positives with clips far outweigh negatives. It makes a huge difference.
So are you braiding all different clips or all the same size clips?
No,
You get different sizes.
There's a couple of different sizes. Let me just put on my spectacles and I'll show you a few that. So these are the clips that I carry. And you can see from the thickness of the wire, that's the heaviest or strongest one. And then there's the next one, there's the next one. I carry 4. I could get away with 3 different sizes. I think it's 1.8, 1.6, and about 1.4, or maybe it's 1.6, 1.4, 1.2 more spring steel. That's actually 10, but very good clips. Just while I'm showing them to you like this, what I do is, there was a time when I couldn't afford to buy packets of silvers all the time. I actually still find I tap all my son's traces and a couple of old silvers. So when you see silvers on here that are a little bit grey or going silver, those are the ones that have been recycled. So what I do, it's so easy to make these little clips. It's like when you drop this, you just got to pick up a bunch of silvers. You don't have to spend half an hour trying to find all the silvers. And I do that for all my sort of terminal tackles. It just makes the job a lot easier. Okay, we've got a bit sidetracked here. We've moved on to terminal tackle, and we haven't even covered rods. Guys, anything else about reels? I'm going to cover the rods quickly. I showed you this one a little bit earlier, and I don't have a multiplier rod yet, but everybody will remember those old multiplier rods were what we call fast action. So a lot of people get confused with these terms, the phrase fast action, and they'll say, oh, that rod's fast. What fast action means is that the action is up at the tip. It's here. So a medium action rod would be sort of fairly stiff there, and from about halfway you'd start to get quite a bit of bend. A slow action rod, the bend goes all the way through. With a fast action rod, the bend is all up here. It's in the top quarter. So those old multiplier rods, you'd see that this is the part that bent, and the rest of it was pretty stiff, which made them very good from a casting perspective. And those rods still do cast extremely well. And if you look at tomorrow night, at the other clinic, I'll have some European surf casting rods. They're all fast action. And that's because they fish with mono, and thin mono, and it stretches. So you can afford to use a fast action rod because you've got a lot of give and a lot of stretch. And when I say fast, it's very fast. The tip is almost floppy, it's so soft. Just to act as a shock absorber. With these rods, they all slow action. So you'll see that this rod bends from the tip, it just keeps bending, and it actually bends quite a bit down here. If this was very stiff, like those old blades and that kind of thing, it's rather tricky, because it's 15 foot, number one. But when there's no bend down here, it makes it that much harder, especially with braid. It hurts you. So the grinder rods today are generally all slow action. The only time you'll start seeing fast action grinder rods is when you start going to fine lines or thin lines, like with thin braid where there's not a lot of pressure. Then you can go to a faster action rod. So yeah, a lot of guys took those old 400s and the old S6s and that kind of thing, and they turned them into grinder rods. And yeah, they worked, but they were nowhere near as efficient as the modern ones. They were a lot more user-friendly from a casting and a fish pulling perspective. And of course, there's a whole lot of different weights. And you know, in the old days, rods were quite specific. You almost had to custom build a rod if you wanted good performance. These days, you don't need to do that, because I used to, in the old days, you'd go and watch, you'd see one act throw a mark, you'd see the rest of it, one act there. People really struggle. Now, everybody throws a mark. You go down everywhere. So the playing fields have been leveled that much more. So it makes competitive angling that much more exciting, if that's the way you see it. But for you to be a better angler than the next, you don't just need a little bit of arts. You need to have what my wife likes to call the fine edge, or the slight edge. The slight edge on everything. And that's very important. If you can have just that 2%, 1%, 0.5% of an advantage over any of your opponents, whether it's casting, whether it's speed, whether it's bait presentation, whether it's knowledge, whether it all adds up, and eventually you start getting to, it adds up to like 5% and 6%, and then you start seeing the better anglers come through. Those are the guys that have actually seen that and worked on it. There's not a lot to tell about rods. It's pretty sort of, this is where you are today with rods. So I don't have a lot to tell you unless we go into great technical detail, but I just want to make sure that there's no questions regarding rods before we move on. Anybody?
Just a question, Barry. I see you've got a bionic finger on the end of your rod. Some people use finger pads. Do you see a big difference in that?
Yeah, for me there's a huge difference. What the bionic finger does is it's what everything else has done. It starts to level the playing field. It makes it that much easier to actually cast further. So once you've got used to this thing, look, when I'm spinning or if I'm just fishing light, then I don't use it. But when you start to throw big baits, that's when it makes a huge difference. If you're going to throw a really big bait, something heavy, what it does, and I mean, guys, I've seen how it's wrap a line around there. There's no need to wrap a line around. You don't wrap it around. You just, no wrap, you just put it in there, you trap it with that, and now all you're holding is that. It can't cut you, because if your braid's loose, and you throw here and it slips, the braid will go right through your finger. That's why you have to use a glove. And it will go right through the glove as well, if it's thin braid. So with a bionic finger, it's consistent every single time. You can, once you get used to casting with this, you'll see, it's just, you can decide where you're going to throw it, and your accuracy will be that much better, your distance will be that much better. As soon as you're using this thing, then the heavier the bait, the more it wants to pull your finger out. And now you let go a little bit, and it goes over there, the next minute, like next to you saying, you know, that kind of thing. So for me, bionic finger it's not even a debate. You'll notice these new Zeros, the joints are a hell of a lot better than the older ones. Some of those other ones, that's a fighting and standing with their bums together and pulling. So these are a lot better. It's quite complicated, this whole spigot story. How round it has to be, how much it has to take, etc. But we've left a gap there for two reasons. One is we still don't have a wear component. So there's no formula that can relate to time, to how long this thing's actually going to last. So we're allowed to keep a little closer. But more importantly, if they do touch, then there's a lot of pressure on the point where they meet, because they push against each other very hard, and that can actually cause the spigot on the inside to start to come loose or to fracture the rod. So that's why we leave it like that. If you find that your spigot has come loose on another rod, one of the best things to use is super glue. You just take some super glue, you put on a cloth, not on your finger, and you make sure, like, put a plastic bag or something over your finger, take a cloth, put super glue all over the cloth, and then very quickly and very finely just rub a very thin layer over the spigot. And that will actually build it up a little. And if it's not enough, put a bit more. But don't go and think, oh no, this thing is very loose, put a whole lot of it on. Then you've got to start sanding it down again, water papering it, and then it becomes a knife. But spigots have improved a hell of a lot.
So if you put it on, you put it right around or just
right around?
right around?
So there isn't a fix on the spigot there, Barry. So if that does go, and that super glue doesn't work, is there a repairable job on the spigot or not at all? That's it.
Very difficult to get a spigot out. because you've actually got to start heating. So as soon as you heat carbon, then you compromise the integrity of the material. So yeah. Okay, guys, anything else on the rods? I'm just going to talk about braids quickly because it's a very, very important part of the whole thing. And it was actually interesting when a friend of mine said to me, he said to me, you know what, braids expensive, but geez, I'm saving a lot of money. Because when I first competitively, I was buying I was putting a brand new top shot every competition. And I thought about it, and it's quite right, because now I've got to write on the inside of my spools. I've got to put a date. I've got to say what's there, because you forget, because it lasts forever. And you go and you pick up the thing and you go, I put this on 4 years ago. 4 years, and you know, I've used it a couple of times. Normally go back in 4 years, I've used it a lot. But it lasts forever. It lasts a long time. So braid is a wonderful thing, and I'm sure everybody's familiar with it. 300 meter top shot. There's no argument on that. 200 is too short. 400 is too much. 300 is perfect, unless you are a super fast. Because and we've got a braid coming out that's going to show us who the super fastest are. Because there seems to be a lot of them. And then when you see it, you actually go and measure it out. Oh, maybe not. But yeah, I think I've got it on one of the reels here. New top shots, there's a 600 meter coming. I think it's coming in grinder braid. That is every 100 meters is a different color. Okay, so that makes it interesting. So, and we've got a black mark every 10, I think. But I think it's 10. We should have the samples quite soon. I've been using the one lot. The problem that we had is we made the top nice bright yellow, and then the rest was red. So when you throw, if it's been a good throw, suddenly you can't see your braid now. Where did that go? Because you don't want the red. So we've made those 3 colors. So you can buy a top shot spool, you can buy a backing spool. Backing spool 600, and there's bulk spools 1,000, but the top shots are 300. And the 300 is bright yellow, chartreuse, orange, I think. So now when I have throws, it comes and stands next to you and go. I mean, you might as well have his pants full. You know, same thing. I know how far you throw. But yeah, it makes it that much easier. Braid is made out of polyethylene. It's a high density polyethylene. And I've heard lots of different stories. Yeah, you do get a very good, very high spec fiber. It's an actual fiber that's highly spec. So the braid is made up of woven fibers. And your very thin braids, like a very thin 8 leaf, is horrifically expensive. Because it's so thin, it's so hard to do. And they do use a very thin fiber to make up the actual strands that are woven together. But it's made out of the same thing. So when you start seeing cheap ones, there's often another component in there, and I've seen cotton in braids. China, you go there, string at this price. Yeah, when you pick up the string, geez, that's strong. This is braids. And you find out it's not string, basically it's a counter product, and they've made it the same color, but it's not all polyethylene inside there. They've got just normal cotton inside as well. So some of the cheaper braids, if a braid's really cheap, then you've got to start sort of raising an eyebrow. But what has happened is that because of the volume, braids are becoming cheaper. But if you've got the right name, you don't really have to drop the price too much. But a lot of guys are coming into the market at reasonable prices, and the product is very, very simple. There are some very special ones. That black Berkeley,
Black velvet.
black velvet. The actual fibers are black. No other braid is like it. Because of the volume that they do, and because of the purchasing power they have, the actual fibers are made black. So they don't have to worry about dyeing the cotton. Everybody else has to dye their cotton, and that's where the problems start coming in. We've had a couple, hell of a well-priced house, right? We find this with the hands like guides, so as soon as you dye it, you start running into problems, and it will eventually fade. I would just also be careful with braids. I don't know, I haven't done the test, but I know that there's a degree of toxicity in a lot of the materials that they use, I mean, the chemicals that they use to dye. And I think all of us, I even have to tie a knot now, my teeth have got a little bit of a blunt. I would tie a knot in the end so I can put it properly. But yeah, don't go around sucking a piece of braid, I don't think it's good. Because there's definitely different factories are using different chemicals to actually dye it. There's no doubt that the more the weave, the rounder the braid, the better it throws. So with braids, if you get a loose weave, in other words, the fibers, if you can take a braid and push it, like bunches up, you can see the weave. It's not very tight. They talk about picks per inch. It's how tightly woven it is. The tighter the weave, the rounder the braid is, the better it's going to throw, and the better it's going to pack on the reel for casting. However, if you want backing braid, then you can go with a looser weave, which flattens and packs better onto the reel. You must also be careful because those looser weaves do tend to, if you pull hard on them, if you're using a big drag, it bites in. And when it bites in, you've got a problem because it can burn off, especially if there's a little bit of speed. The friction of it cutting through the braid underneath actually causes it to burn off. So just be careful of that. As I said, from a rocket surf perspective, we use braid with a leader. I use a 7-meter leader. I wouldn't advise going much more than that, because as soon as the longer you go, the more problems you're going to have. There's 2 knots that I would use, the PR knot and the FG knot. FG doesn't stand for freaking wood, it stands for finger grip, or filly grip. But it's just the principle of there's no knot, there's one strand going out and it's like fingers around it. That's what a FG is. And a PR, but a PR is a very similar knot where you've gone up and you've come back down over the top and you basically with it. There's no knot, it's like using a limit twist. So those are the 2 knots that I would use. If you're joining braid to mono, which I see some people do, they'll still, where I've got a clip, they go and tie like an FG. There's absolutely no need for it because the FG is on your main line, which is the thinnest line, which is your weak link. Where your braid leader comes down and goes onto your mono, you can use a slim beauty, which is just a uni knot on your mono, and then basically from 8 to 10 turns down, 8 to 10 turns back, pull out a loop, push it through the loop, and pull the whole thing tight. And that works an absolute treat, and it's strong. The weak link in your setup is something you have to be very alert to, because that's what's going to give up if you have to apply maximum sort of pressure. And I think we've all fished a little bit in reefs and that at times. I mean, when I think about how I used to fish in reefs and how I fish in reefs now, it's ridiculous. Because before we used to fish fairly light and we used to get hammered and cut off all sorts of things. Now, when I go and fish in the reef, I'll take minimum 80 pound main line, 80 pound, and I'll go on to a 120 pound lead. I don't need a huge lead, but 120, so there's not a big difference. And on the end of that, I'll have my clip. But my main trace is probably going to have 2 hooks, both circles. It might be 1 mil because we're fishing for rock hard, and speckles, and all sorts of things. My main trace goes onto a smaller swivel. So I've got one more going on to probably about a number 4 swivel or a number 5 swivel. So a small swivel like that. It's quite small. And the reason I do that is because this is my weak link. I want a weak link because if I do happen to hook a rock, my circles don't do what they should do and not hook a rock, but somehow I get hooked up onto a rock and I go to part off. I just want to use a lose my trace because I've got another one I can just clip on. It's that quick. So this is my weak link. But it's not that weak that if I hook a big fish, I'm actually going to get, it's going to cut through. So it takes a little bit of trial and error. But if you go and try, just hook it up to a post and go and pull. And when you pull, you'll see the smaller swivel, because it's thin wire, cuts through the thick line that much easier. Gully shark in Namibia, small swivel with your sinker on running up and down, cuts through tennis rackets. No trouble at all, like a knife through butter. So if you're ever going to use a swivel as a limited slide, you either use one of these, which is a swivel T, you know about those, or you use one of these, which is that NT swivel. This swivel's got a little thimble inside the loop. You see the thimble there? And you don't need a bead on each end. I mean, if you want to make it look fancy or, you know, a little bit Christmas tree-ish, you can put some beads, different colors. But you don't need those beads because this thing is flared at the end. So there's no way it's going to knock your knot off. So this NT swivel is perfect for that kind of thing. And it's quite a bit stronger than the swivel T. Okay, so on that terminal tackle, as I was telling you, you have to create a weak link if you're fishing in the rods. My sinker has obviously got quite thin water. I'll fish like a 5-0 or even a 6-0. If I fish a pike dog, I might go to 6-0 because I know that when I go to my 80-pound braid, before I start tilting the ledge, the sinker is going to break, the sinker trace is going to break. If that doesn't break, if one of my hooks has actually hooked the thing, then the next part that's going to break is where that small swivel goes onto the thing. And I can't tell you now exactly what the breaking strain is or whatever. You've actually got to go and put it on the thing and pull and feel. But I know that if I go to 65 pound, sometimes my braid breaks and not my weak link. 80 pound, never ever. It's like clockwork. Guaranteed 100%. So that's a little tip that actually speeds up the process of just, especially for us all the when we're battling with knots and that kind of thing at this stage. Okay, I spoke about braid. I spoke about braid leaders. Are there any questions on braid and braid leaders?
What do you use from your back to your top shot?
Okay, from my backing to my top shot, what I've done is I just do 2 unis, but I'll do, if it's quite thin line, I'll do like 8 turns. As the line gets a little bit thicker, I'll do, but I won't do less than 6. So I do 6 turns, 6 turns, and that's all I use. Because I also want a weak link there. Very expensive to replace all your braid. If I really am going to part off, then I'd rather lose my top shot. I'll lose my top shot. So I use that, and I've never ever had it break, ever. You know, even during the sardine run with those big fish, I've never had that break. For me, it's perfectly adequate. It's not good enough for my son. He puts, I think he puts a chain in. No, he actually does FG onto like a little piece of lead. There's absolutely no need to. There really is no need to. So, yeah, very successful and a very good question. If we didn't get that, that was how do you join the top shot to the the backing. So guys, it's amazing how these systems are all sort of coming together for everybody. I mean, we all talk the same language: backing, dump shot, reclaim, clap, this, that. And what it's done is it's just made fishing that much more, almost clinical. It's amazing. So I started talking about terminal tackle now after the break. Sorry, any other questions on break? Okay. So the other thing that I just wanted to show you that I use a lot, and I've been sort of involved right from the beginning. I didn't invent dingles. That was some other people. And funny enough, it came from the carpet community, and then it came from, it was more than Gauteng was the first time. But these days, it's everybody throws a thing. I mean, we had diamonds the other day, absolutely top, and you see how it's. And he goes, and there's the bait, and there's the. What for? Just take a chunk of a mackerel mid body, take a circle, push it right through it like that, throw it, and you're on. So it's got to the point where people just, that's what they do. So you put that on and you throw as far as you can. And you hook the diamond at 150 meters, and it still takes 30 or 40 meters a line. It takes you that much longer to bring it back, and they're actually biting right you on the lip. So you just got to be aware of that kind of thing. You know, we used to just take a mackerel and put it off. And yeah, sometimes they used to pull them off, the sandies especially. We had a plan for that. We'd actually put it through, pull it out, put it back, and stick it out the top there. Then the sandy didn't pull it off. And you can still do that today, and it works like a bomb. But people are just, they just dingle along. But anyway, I use a lot of different dingles. This is an old, well-used one. It's a wire. That was pretty much my standard kind of dingle, and I still use it a lot. Sort of changed a little bit to nylon-coated wire dingles. I found a nice crimping tool. I think this is, I think it's a Berkeley, also a Berkeley product, but it's the right crimping tool. So it crimps it properly. And I put two little keeps in there, like bait keeps. So once I've pulled this into the head, once I've pulled it in, that actually helps to keep the bait on. So I don't have to spend too much time with my mackerel head or whatever, making sure that the sandy's not going to pull it off, because he's got a job putting it. So he's got to get it past these things, not just the hook. It's very easy on the hook, because they actually, I'm sure you've all had it. I think they take that thing and they get that thing here and it's going, and you get it. And you know the style of the bait. You just know. Sometimes it puts you down on the wind out. I should have actually done it properly. So, yeah, for the guys that want to have a look, I'm going to leave this just lying here on the table. I often sort of make them up part way, and then I'll make the top. What I have found is that when you're using a dingle, you guys come with flipping heat shrink and cable ties and all sorts of things. Try a bit of that, but if you make this long and thick, it does not come off. If you make it round, it comes off all the time. But if you make it like this, it does not come off. And I think it's because it gets caught behind the bar a lot easier. But I just know when you make those round ones come off all the time. So you'll see even on these ones here, before I put these on, I normally I actually close it. And then once I put it on, it takes the shape of the sort of hook, but it doesn't come off. Sometimes the fish can be a little bit fussy with that kind of thing. So here's a trace. I think this was fishing for cod in the Strand by the Dynamite Factory. So we got, again, as I was saying to you, my traces are all 2 meters. So here's a 2 meter fluorocarbon trace that I just clip on. Joy of fluorocarbon. We've actually just bought in a new one, which is Gosen. You know the Gosen braid? Gosen fluorocarbon, which is really, really good quality Japanese braid. There is slightly less on some of the spools than the Siglon, but it's not 300 rand, it's like I think it's 200 bucks or something. You know the pricing on this one? Right. You've seen this, huh? No. That's here. Okay, yeah, so there's an 80 pound, and it really is good quality. I used the samples and I'm very happy with it. But it's what's nice about it is it's a more affordable kind of rod. Especially with the guys that spin in it. You don't use a lot of it. You use 2 meters every 6 months. So you don't need a lot. So if you have a look at this dingle, it's actually mono. So it's just mono, it's a jail. It's a mono dingle on the thing. I prefer for some of the edible fish, although some of the edible fish up here, like the speckles and whatever, and even a pussy, will take this piece of wire and chew it up like a piece of solder wire and spit it back at you. But there are times when I prefer to have just a nylon dingle on the end. And it works just as well. It works extremely well when you clip it on. I'm going to leave that trace lying here too if anybody wants to look at it later. I don't think there's much more about dingles. Anybody got any dingle questions? I don't answer that. No, I'm talking about dingles, these dingles. Other very
What number wire do you use for your
14. Yeah, I use number 14 on these, and it's fine. It's perfect. It's for me, it's easy to work with. Also, the other thing that I've done, I mean, you guys all know how frustrating it is with tools. It's a nightmare for me at times in the tackle store because I was come and say, I bought this pair last week, look at it! And it's rusted, finished, it's stuck in it. I had to still let it look like. Came in, I could left it, he went to the Seychelles. No, it was Mozambique. And he left it in his bait box for 6 months. And then he said, look at this reel. I can't believe it. I think it was still wet when he put it in the bait box. But I mean, we all know what that is. Same thing, you take your tools and you leave them in a cool, in a warm, damp environment, they're not going to look that great. But that's one thing that I invested on. I found out about these round nose from somebody, and also these side cutters. Do we stock these here? I don't think so.
Got the fire, round fire.
You don't stock this one? This one you stock, but you don't stock this. Okay, this is an amazing little side cutter. I forget the brand, it's American. But this thing will cut the wires on your heavy grapple sinker, and they just keep working. And they cut anything, and they light. And these days, you know what that is. You don't have to have all these heavy things. So this is this is very rare. I have to put Barry because my son's also got a beat. I can't put beat out in the yeah, this is XURON. But the most amazing side cutters I've ever had, and these are Gador. Yeah. These are Gador round nose. And these round nose have got a little flat thing in the middle here, on the side. Not on the side. But so you can actually squash things, you can grip things with them, it's got a little grip, and you can make all the little round things that you need to make. And these are the only 2 tools that I've got in my tackle box. One to cut wire and one to do everything else that I need pliers for. It grips my braid when I have to pull it, it grips my traces. So if you're happy to spend a little bit of money and be happy with it and you don't lose your tools, that's where you should spend it. The other thing I just wanted to talk about quickly was clips. You know, it's all very well having dingles, but how many times do you see a guy put his bait on and jump in the water and off he goes, and the first wave hits him, next one you see there's the, start again. And even worse, when you get to the back of the bait, it's easy. When you're down in the Southern Cape and you've been waiting for 150 meters and you're about to cast, and next one, there it jumps off. By the time you've got it back on, the next set hits you, and then it's upside down, and you wash past it, and it's puzzling. It's just such a waste of time. So there's a thing here. I don't know if I have that big a bait on this hook, but I don't know if you guys have seen this. It's a Gemini clip. I know, do you stop in your neck? You do. The Gemini clip. Okay, so this is quite a clever clip, but it was designed for Europe, so it's not quite as robust as we would like. If you tie straight onto this clip, then this plastic part here is going to at some stage get blown up your line. But if you put one of those clips above, so you clip it on, which means I can also clip this thing off quite quickly if I want to. Then it can't blow past the clip. So I put a clip there, and then what I do here is, if you have a look at this, when you push this up, there's a gap to put your dingle in. See, I've got quite a big loop on there, because you need it with this thing. And once you pull this thing down, it actually locks it in place. So you can see where my bait is. That's why you need quite a big loop on this Gemini clip. And now I can get knocked over and go underwater, do whatever. It's clipped. It's fuss. That thing's not coming off. I can run down the beach and bounce around. It's not coming off. But as soon as it hits the water pushes this thing here, this little plate at the bottom, that pushes that up, and it's off. This has been a wonderful revelation. Also, when you use it, at the bottom here, where you clip your sinker on and off, you don't have to force this thing apart. You actually just push down like that, and the sinker comes off. You must push from the side to move this wire across. You see that this wire moves sideways? You don't have to force this thing open. Because if you do force it open, you can create a gap there that suddenly a sinker comes off. So every now and then what I do, these were cheap blouses, and I just make sure that it's a little bit too much, so it's nice and tight, and then it's not going to come off. So as I said, it's just you push it to get it on. I'm going to leave this line here as well. This, by the way, is the new BKK 12 or 14, which is now available. We'll talk a little bit about this just now. Okay, so there's that clip which I use most of the time. Now and again I'll use what's called an imp. I'm sure you guys have seen these grey ones. So what I do is I make a little clip for this thing, because it comes with a clip similar to the ones that we use to clip on traces, except I think it's made in maybe China cheap factories, because they break all the time. And they also designed for European fishing, so they're not that strong. So again, my number 14 wire, I just make a little clip. I'm going to leave these here, you guys can have a look at it. Used to be a secret, isn't it anymore? But you obviously tie your line on the one end, and then you can clip your sinker on, because I make it so that you can clip it on the other. But this imp works very well as well. it can come off, but it doesn't come off as easily as all others. Okay, so I'll leave those on the table here. If anybody wants to come and have a look a little bit later, just while I'm at this, I'm going to put my chopper hammer away. This chopper hammer is older than my son. And I had a customer, I had a guy on the beach. In fact, it was Henny Klein. I mean, you guys all know Henny. He can, Barry, come here. So he said, see me eating them. So I said, what's the name on? See? And he said to me, yes. He says, I just want to tell you the best chocker hammer in the world. He said, I bought it. He said, I walked in and out the shop about 4 times. It was so expensive. He said, eventually I thought, no, damn it, I'm just going to buy it. And he bought it. He said, he still got it today. But why I wanted to talk about it was I just wanted to show you what I've done here. And you can take your own chocker hammer and do the same thing. There's one side that's got small teeth, and the other side's got big teeth. So there's a time when you want to make big holes into a big piece of chocker, and there's a time when you want to just flatten the edges because you want to wrap it around or whatever. And you'll see they've all been flattened at the top, because when you make a hole in chocker, when you hit the piece of chocker, you only want to hit it once. Like my mother when she hit me, it was just once. Oh man, hit me a couple. Oh. So you hit it once, and it actually cuts down into the chocker. It cuts, it makes each one of these as sharp on the edges. When I had an aluminium one, every now and then we used to have to do the maintenance and file the edges to make sure that it actually cuts properly. And if you made the whole thing too sharp, it cut right through your finger and went over and you hit the wrong thing. And also with the chocker, you don't want it to go through, so you just flatten the top off. So have a look at the chocker hammer, don't steal it. We're a metal detector at the door. But if you're interested, for me, chocker is quite a big component. I also use it for all sorts of other things. But just the fact that we spent a lot of time on these things, and it saves you a lot of time if it's the right shape and if you've got the right sort of tool. Unfortunately, it doesn't come any lighter than this. So I do take it when I have to. What else was there on? We spoke about clips, spoken about swivels. Just a quick one on hooks. You know, hooks are a little bit like reels when it comes to. They have a fan club, like a base. And if you use mustard, then don't bring any other crap here. Or if you use Daiichi or Kamagatsu or Ona or whatever, it's also like kids about hooks, like reels. Walk around, Dava, Shimano, Assassin. Also, they get tense about hooks. The reality at the end of the day is that almost every hook is designed specifically for a purpose. There's an intention behind that hook, and we often don't use them for the wrong thing. And if you do that, then you can expect trouble. So, I hardly use J hooks anymore. Now and again on cob trace, if I think the cob is going to be a bit snatchy, I might use a J. But the rest of the time I'm using circles, and we've learned how to bait the circles much more effectively than anything else. If you're going to go and fish for a sand and you're using one of these BKKs, but you're using this particular one, you will know what I'm talking about. It's called the big one. Yeah. It's a great hook. It's relatively thin. It's got a nice wide gape. It'll go around anything. And it works like that. And I've seen some huge fish landed on it. But if you've got 80-pound braid or 100-pound braid and you've got an 80-kilo sand and it's green and you're putting it, that's when the fish rolls. Same as a gully shark. Pull it hard, it rolls like it, and he gets the trace around and he pulls it. If this hook is in the wrong place, it's going to straighten. So if you're a little bit concerned about that, if I'm fishing for a really big fish, then you can see you use thicker wire, because that's going to eliminate a lot of those chances. And I mean, some of my fairly small hooks, you'll see very thick wire, because if I hook a sand, I want to be able to pull harder. and it will hook a lot of other fish, but I wouldn't really use that for grey sharks, for example. I tend to go to a finer hook. So it's not really about the brand, it's about the shape of the hook, and it's about the thickness of the wire. That's the important part. And yes, how long it lasts depends on the coating, and again, almost every brand have hooks that have good coatings that last a long time, and have other hooks that aren't so well coated that don't last that long. But hooks have come a long way, and there's absolutely no doubt the thinner the wire, the easier the hook goes into the vast majority of fish. But the thinner the wire, the easier it's going to straighten. It's as simple as that. And it doesn't matter. The only hook that I haven't straightened is this hook here. And this is the hook that I use on the sardine, and this is an owner, and it's a 12-hour. But have a look at that. I mean, it's not a big hook. And it's a swim bait transfer. In fact, that Zambi that I got the other day was on this one. And I'd squashed the bar, and I couldn't get it out. I was also a bit scared. Too close, especially that little eyes checking you out. After I watched that video of my life running in the water with a reggae behind it, I did something another way around. So, yeah, you can see from the thickness of this one. I mean, in the sardine run, I don't know how many of you guys got involved in it, but it was stupid. I had some hooks that were this thick. I had one that was, I had the fish on for about 3 seconds, and the hook came back straight. And it was that kind of thickness. I won't tell you what brand it was that thick. It was a seriously strong hook. I thought it's impossible. This is the only one that I've never had straight. And I mean, you look at it and you say, sure, but it's a thick hook. So yeah, just think about the application, and then you make a calculated decision as to whether you want to go with the thinner or the thicker hook. The shape is also, it's not that critical. I've used very, very narrow gauge hooks. You can't believe, I mean, some of you guys would have seen some of those Daiichis that we bought from America. The gap was like this, but it was a huge hook like that, but the gap was that big. I love that for sandies, for everything. You can't believe how it used to go in. Once it finds purchase, the harder you pull, the more it goes in. But then it like squashes the wherever it is, so you actually can't get it out. It was amazing. These circle hooks have really been unbelievable. Guys, any questions on hooks or anything else so far? Okay, I think I've pretty much covered everything except the last thing, which I, you know, when you fish, I hate that I invented a weed eater suit. Really. Simply because lots of people use it and they use it in the wrong place. So the hook throws and the next minute, oh sorry, it's over you, and the weed eater sinker gets used to slide baits. I mean, you can't slide a bait on a weed eater sinker because it's not an anchor. So I just wanted to chat quickly about sinkers, again from my perspective. I try and keep it simple. I try and carry as few sinkers as possible. You can see here I've got a 7-ounce rod and I've got an 8-ounce rod. And sometimes I throw 8 ounces on the 7 ounce because I'm fishing in the cave, the wind's blowing straight into my face. I can punch it low and hard, and I will throw further with an 8 than I will with a 7. But if the wind's coming from the side or from the back, I know I'm going to throw a 7-ounce sinker a hell of a lot further. But there's no 6 here and there's no 9. And you don't need a 9 or a 10 or whatever. People come to me and say, no, the rod's right. I say, oh, sure. And I was passing by 10 ounces. And you say to the rod's not meant to throw 10 ounces. Why not? You know, we had to use 10 ounces. It was a strong current. Current is a very simple thing. I normally carry thin wire and thick wire grabbers. I love grapple sinkers. I use them more than anything else. This thing doesn't get stuck in the rocks anywhere near as easily as cone or anything else, because where it lands, it sits. And again, with these fancy pliers, these fancy cheap pliers that I bought, okay, that's a thick one. I won't do the thick one. Yeah, so you'll see on all my sinkers, I actually bend the tips in slightly. And when I go to use this thing, I use this flat part here, and I just open these out. And now the exciting part is once you've clipped those in place, the best grip that you can get is at about that kind of angle. That's going to give you the best sort of grip. It's almost dead straight. The reason I clip the ends here is it's not quite so sharp. It doesn't go into your foot quite so easily. But more important than that, what it does do is it starts pulling it into the sand quickly. So it actually pulls it in quite quickly, and this thing sits fast. Now, if you don't want it to move at all, then you can set this really hard so that it's hard to break away. It just doesn't want to. I've set it very hard. But you might want this to break away fairly easily. You can adjust that simply by opening these legs out. I'm sure you all know that. So you can make it so that it breaks away very easily or really easily. And you can make it suit the condition. So you can make this sinker do almost anything. The only time that I really use a cone, and that's the other sinker that I use, and I tend to make sure that my cones are quite nice and sharp on the edges so that they will dig in a bit. I don't want too much resistance when I wind back because it stuffs up my ears. And I use it to actually shield the bait behind. So if I've got a clip on here and a bait, it's definitely creating a little bit more of a vacuum or a vortex at the back here that the bait can sit in. It travels well, and once the bait lands, it can move a bit, and I can move it, and I can move it a bit and leave it. A bit more difficult with a grapple sinker. It's harder to move, but if you set it hard, it won't break away. You can move it depending on the sand. But by keeping it simple, you don't have to carry so many sinkers. And push come to shove, I could, you know, I've actually got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I've got 10 sinkers here, which is a lot. I normally carry about 7. And I can use all of those sinkers on both the joints. But the 8 ounces, which I don't, I've got about 2 grapples and one cone, 8 ounce. That's for that rod. The 7 ounces are for this rod. That's the one I use the most. But I can interchange. So you don't have to go with this huge bag with NG case pop plug, change it in, weed eater, you know, pyramid, square pyramid, triangle pyramid. Not necessary. Try and keep it simple with sinkers, and this sinker was the best sinker that was ever invented. You can use it for almost anything. It's a wonderful sinker. One last little sort of new, I'll say new, of late I've been using a lot of very thick cotton, and I use it especially when there's peckers. Often if there's peckers, you actually want to know what the peckers are at times. So sometimes I'll deliberately put a bit of foam in, but I use this foam because if a budgie bites it, I can see it's a budgie. If a crab bites it, I can see it's a crab. If a toby bites it, I can see it's a toby. Whereas if you use this other foam, toby comes and bites it, and it's fine, and you don't know what it is. So you can see whether it's Bludia, that snail that just melts the bait, like dissolves it, you don't even feel a bite. You can see there's not a mark on here on my bait spot. That's Bludia, that's that snail. Put lots more fun. get it above because they don't really like swimming up. But a crab will actually, you have to put your line down. So this will tell you what's interfering with your bait. It's a good thing to have. I use it to float a bait, but I also use it to find out what's going on. But very important is the fact that we bait fishing. The first thing that we appeal to, the first sense, is smell. That's the most common way that a fish finds your bait. It's by smell. So that's a whole other thing about reading water and watching the current. You should always have your bait in front of. Ever since I started saying this, I find that I just get outdone. You throw and the next one somebody throws in, and you throw and it throws there. But anyway, your bait should always be the first bait that the fish is going to find when he comes in the obvious route, which is up against the cove. And he starts going. And there's 10 oaks baits, yours better be the one he comes to first. And that will be the one that is the most downstream, down the current. He comes up, that's the one he's going to find first, you'll get a bite. If you can get a bait back there quickly, you'll catch the next one, and the next one, and the next one. So smell is very important. And one thing this cotton taught me was actually a guy in Namibia that told me the story because he got sick and tired of his clients winding up no bait. So he wanted there to be something there all the time because now he's got a bait up for a client throw game. That one's up, no bait. So he takes this stuff and he makes his bait look like a golf ball. You know when you peel the outside off a golf ball, there's so much cotton in there. So you can take, when they're fishing for bronzes, normally you take a mackerel head, you know, no more mackerel head. Just take a chunk of mackerel, preferably cold or almost frozen. And when you put your cotton on, you get the thickest cotton you can find. This is still, I'd like something a little bit thicker on that to find it. But there's one called, it's called heavy, not thick. Thick is actually thin, very thin. This is called heavy. And this, when you put it on, and you build a base around your dingle or whatever, it doesn't matter what it is. Like I said, I was using a mackerel head. But when you look at that mackerel head, you don't see any mackerel heads anywhere. It's just this round, bloody bait. Inside there's a mackerel, but the diamond doesn't go on inside. No mackerel head. There's a mackerel. It smells when it comes along. I mean, I proved it again the other day. We were running out of heads. You just take a chunk of the body. And if you take this stuff and you wrap, you need something nice and firm and juicy. But you wrap the cotton and you wrap the cotton in the wrap. It starts, if it's too defrosted, you eventually just let it squeezing out everywhere. You put a lot of cotton, you build a base that the peckers actually can't get through because there's so much freaking cotton. And then you put a little bit more, and as you get out to the outside of your bait, you can go to a thinner cotton or something, but that outside part you almost want to start falling apart. But by the time you get to the middle, that part needs to be almost impossible. It'll be like a rubber ball. When he gets that thing in his mouth, you can taste it, but it's all chewed. This has made a huge difference to my fishing. I can confidently stand with baits now for a lot longer, and I know that they're oozing because that elastic is actually squeezing, especially if you take something frozen. I mean, these guys, these days, you know, you take a mackerel head, you cut the eyes and the nose off, you cut this part off, you take the skin off. Eventually, it's just this block left, but it's got the gills and whatever in there, the bone. That's the thing that's actually being squashed, and that's where the blood's coming from. So this provides a continual stream of smell coming out of it. Thick cotton for me has been wonderful. I used to think, yeah, thick cotton. But it really does work on big baits, guys, and in situations where you're faced with that kind of thing where there's a lot of gaps. Right, I think I've pretty much covered everything. I don't know if there were secrets or anything inside. And it's almost time. So guys, any questions? Is there anything that you'd like to ask me I can help with? Yes.
I've seen some of the cold sinkers that actually have a longer boom on them. Does that make a difference?
Definitely. So the question, the statement was, I've seen cone sinkers with a longer boom. You would also have seen grapple sinkers with a long boom. That comes from the sliding days. And the reason we went long boom was when we fished overseas, wherever, because there's places overseas where they have huge current. And I mean, it's like serious current. It's big estuarine kind of systems that come down into the sea's flat, and it pours out, and there's a strong current. So most of the time, when they're fishing up into the current, they'll call it uptide. I'm sure you would have heard the term uptide fishing. So that means you're fishing up into the current. And you need these sinkers that actually grip really well. And they worked out that the longer the boom, the better it grips. And it's like any ski boater will know why you have a chain on your ankle. Because if you just had an anchor with a rope, it's not going to work that well. What the chain does is it actually pulls it down so that you're actually pulling parallel to the seabed. The long boom does the same thing. It actually makes sure that the sinker is pulling parallel to the seabed. So you can take these wires and you can make them almost 90 degrees. If you've got a long boom, it just, especially with this little tip, that's where I learned this from as well. I watched how with a long boom and this, you pull it, it just goes straight into the sinker and it sits. So yes, the same principle applies. With a long boom like this, you'll be pulling from here at that angle. But if you've got a long boom, you're actually pulling at that angle. So it does make a big difference. Yeah.
So what you're saying, the long boom is better than the short one?
So the question is the long boom better than the short one? Definitely in a situation where you're battling to hold in the current. It improves on the gripping of the sinker, the long boom. So I mean, if you said to me, your life's going to depend on holding the bait in a strong current, I wouldn't be using any of these. I'd have that we made it specially for sliding in the old sliding days. It's a long sinker like this, with a long boom and with thick wire legs. That thing does not move at all. It goes in because of the long boom. And you need, when you're sliding, the tighter your connection to your sinker, the better the result. The further your slide goes down to the end, and also when the fish picks it up, it doesn't burn you off because your slide's a lot further down. And immediately we started sliding, we started having far better success with blackfin. Blackfin used to be a nightmare for anybody. Barry will tell you. Even with light tackle, I used to say, oh, you mustn't put too much pressure. They get nervous. That thing is worse than a collie. It's worse than a flippin', the thing that bites the postman. It's a border collie. They are so like highly strung. The blackfin, if you sneeze on the beach, it jumps out of the water. So we thought, oh, you put less pressure, the blackfin's not going to jump out of the water. No. You get just, sometimes you just see a blackfin jump, everything gone. Damn it. But with slides, all of a sudden, we started landing blackfin. And then I worked out exactly what it was. And it was because this thing was fuss on the bottom. It wasn't going anywhere. And when that blackfin came and picked up the bait, 99% of the time he'll hook him down. If you hook him inside, big problem. He'll also, when he rolls, his teeth break the wire. So he pulls on the wire because he spins like that, and he doesn't bite through it. I actually looked at wire under a microscope, and you can see it hasn't been bitten through. It's like when you pull a straw, the wire goes like this, and then suddenly it like steps down, and it's thinner and thinner, and then it's broken. But obviously when something's under tension, if you just take a knife and you touch it like that, that's where it goes. And that's what was happening with the blackfin. Hooking it inside, the thing was rubbing, cut. Now with the slide, he was picking up the bait. As he moved off, it was up against the slide. If he kept it tight, the hook said, within like free spooling, they had a problem. But if he kept it tight, as he picked up the bait and moved off, hook got him in the corner. There's no wire in his teeth, so when he rolls now, it's not going to touch his teeth. And also, it was instant. So suddenly we started landing a lot of blackfin. I mean, you must have noticed that. On slide baits, we caught a hell of a lot more blackfin than we ever caught on throw baits. So now, if you fish, I'm fishing for blackfin with a throw bait. My sinker is fast. That's when I take one of those sinkers. Or I'll take my heavy wire sinker and I'll make the legs straight. So that as he picks up the bait and moves off, it's a circle or two, you've got him in the corner. That's the other thing that's helped now with taking the circles. Because even if it does go inside, it comes out and it hooks him in the corner. And you don't get, but although it's not really